So now, Joe, we are moving on to the fun questions. And the first question is, what is your favorite wine and why?
I love a producer called Domaine Leroy in Burgundy. I think the experience I've had with her wines are magical. They're not something I can describe. That's quite obvious because they're really expensive. They're probably the most expensive wines in the market. And the reason they are the most expensive is because the highest level of collectors are happy to pay big money because they know they're going to deliver. And I think that maybe one that's slightly more left field is a Riesling from Alsace called Clos Saint-Hune from a producer called Trimbach, which is a dry Riesling, so much character, really distinctive. I'll encourage anyone to go and try it. It's not too expensive, but it's a treat. But it's an exceptional one.
Where do you find your passion for wine?
I've always been around. I've always been around wine. My own family and the owner of this company, Tom, is a really old friend of mine. His father had a career in wine as well as investment banking. So even when we were kids, we were exposed to quite amazing wines. Wine makes food taste better. It gets you a little bit merry, and it's a great experience to have. Those are the most important things for wine for me. Do I enjoy it? Going too far into the minutiae and having to pick out various tasting notes, and I'm not actually that interested in that side of things. I think it's more about the enjoyment. It's more about the structure of the wine, the story of the wine.
Yes.
Story of the wine is really important as well. Wine is a factor that has run all the way through human history. So you learn about wine and you learn about history of different regions. And that's quite an interesting side of the market as well.
In your opinion, I know there's so many to choose from. Which country produced the nicest wine?
It has to be France.
Yes.
Look, France, they produce the best wines. They know it as well. But the Bordeaux and Burgundy for me will always be king and queen in the marketplace, and they'll always be the most desirable wines. That being said, there are great wines produced all over the world, and they really are. Every pocket of the world, there's some great winemakers doing some really extraordinary things. They all learn from each other as well, which I think is really interesting. So, you speak to a winemaker who's making Pinot Noir in New Zealand, and he'll be in contact with Aubert de Villaine from DRC, a very famous producer in Burgundy, and they'll be exchanging wines with each other. They'll be exchanging ideas. So that sort of globalization of wine and in the sort of the way that it's seeping into every region is really interesting. And uncovering those up and coming regions and up and coming producers is probably one of the most enjoyable things to do in the wine market. But when all the dust is settled, the best wines are made in France.
Have you learned any Chinese or Cantonese phrase?
No sit gong su su gong dong hua. I know that.
已經好好啦，已經好好啦。
Gour di bat zao.
Gour di bat zao?
Yeah.
So more white wine?
More white wine, yeah.
Yeah, I understand this one.
Quite a relevant one for us.
Joe, you've been living in Hong Kong for 6 years now.
Yeah.
What one aspect that you would like to bring it back to the UK?
I love the national parks in Hong Kong. Look, the UK is beautiful and walking in the UK is great, but there's something about the national parks in Hong Kong which are slightly more wild, I suppose, which are very, very enjoyable. And yeah, some of the dumpling places can come back as well. That would be good.